with you. Oh, God, you're
Coffee, second pot,
It's so
and away we go.
gross.
Good morning.
Stop it.
Welcome to the 24-hour extravaganza. Can you hear me? Coffee, second pot. I hope everybody's doing okay. I know some of you have to watch in America. We call it football, even though it's not football.
Sunlight that does that, huh? I saw the original movie, in '77 back and I think I saw the first three over when they came out or shortly after, but I haven't seen any of the other ones at all. And I got this book out of the library about Star Wars, and I go, well, let's go watch some Star Wars movies. So I'm kind of movied out. But they seem to have gotten worse from the first movie through the 7.
Yeah, well, I actually saw the first one in 1977. I saw it right not too far from here at a place called the
Grand Lake
Theater. Yeah.
Yeah, we went over to the Coronet for the 70mm showing.
Yeah, I mean, and this was like this wasn't even like by choice. It was a school field trip. It was that important, right? So at the time, playing like a lot of rockabilly stuff. Oh, the Ronnie Scotts. Are you talking about the Jeff Beck? Ronnie
Yeah.
Scott? I just saw that the like the almond, like the kids, the Betts kids and the almond kids got.
This thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting. It was recorded in Finland or someplace. Can you see
Really?
that? O'Teal just released a 2-record set of full of his interpretation, him singing and playing of Hunter and Garcia songs. And they're a lot different than you would expect, because I'd only ever seen him when I watched a stream of Dead and Company. I'd never seen him do anything by himself. He was in the Almonds also. Yeah. That's where I thought I came from. But
no,
he was the bass player in Dead and Company, and his brother Kofi Burbridge was the flute player in Tedeschi Trucks Band.
Okay. Yeah, both of those outfits I'm familiar with.
Right. Well, O'Teal just released a 2-record set of full of his interpretation, him singing and playing of Hunter.
Kids, the Betts kids and the Almond kids got a thing going on now.
Yeah, they've had a band together for 3 or 4 years at least.
And I just saw some footage of them playing, and they've got Tal Wilkenfeld playing bass.
Ooh,
yeah, she's really good. And I kind of got introduced to her from Jeff Beck, right? Playing with Jeff Beck, and then bought her album, and I really like her album a lot, the last one that she did, and it was interesting to see her playing with them.
Yeah, she's on a video I've got of Jeff Beck at Ronnie Scott's.
That might be true star power. I might already be thinking that. I might already be thinking, what the hell have I done? Oh, the Ronnie Scotts. Are you talking about the Jeff Beck?
Ronnie Scott? There's a Jeff Beck at Ronnie Scott video that I got. Somebody gave it to me for Christmas 5 years ago, 6 years ago or something.
Right.
It's not new.
No, it's but it's a great show. And I think I saw two versions, or 2 times maybe. There were 2 different shows. There was one where he came out and he was playing like a lot of rockabilly stuff with a different band. And then he goes back, and then he comes back out, and then he's doing the stuff, and he's got his normal band. And I don't know if that was the Ronnie Scott video or if it was just.
I think that's a different one.
Yeah, he was doing like a lot of sort of like video stuff. It was weird because it was rare to see him on video. You know, like I remember back when he was, he was doing his guitar shop stuff like the 80s, going into the 90s. He had like a couple of videos out, like MTV style videos, but it was rare to see like a full concert on video of Jeff Beck back then. And then all of a sudden in the 2020s stuff,
Right.
all of a sudden he had all kinds of concerts, and it wasn't just people filming on their camera.
While I got set up, he's ended up down. Hey, Rob, he's ended up down in Florida, but he lived in Plano, Texas, and I stopped to visit him there a couple of times. But like
I just wanted to come up and give you some support and say good job and congratulations.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
We're the same age, George, and I don't like going out to shows, but I did go out last night. High-end audio place had a jazz legend kind of guy playing, so I thought, how many times am I going to be able to see this dude? And it was great, but it was maybe like 60 people crammed into this space, and it was Henry Franklin, who's they just reissued a very hard to get album of his. So the guy said, if you buy this, it supports him. Like all the money goes to him because, like all jazz artists, he got nothing. He hired lawyers. This is him playing, but he's like 83, I think, and he was awesome. He was awesome last night. So I have pictures. I'll show one picture of him playing. But I think I took of him. He was great.
Now, where was that at?
Common Wave is a very high-end audio place in downtown LA. And they'll do things like that. That's the stuff I would like to go to. When these places bring in artists to play in these spaces. I mean, it was perfect. It was keyboard, drums, bass, and a saxophonist, and it was awesome. So.
Yeah, the Bay Area's got some pretty cool jazz clubs, places. Hi, Mark. Yoshi's and actually went to there's a restaurant in the city called Bix, Bix, and it used to be it was a bank like in the 40s. A game to that, but it's amazing to just be sitting there, and they're just amongst, like, you could be
called Real Restaurants Group, and they.
But there's a place here, Sam's First, near the airport, and they started a record label. So I'm into getting more into these intimate places to go see jazz people play. So,
hey, Mazzy, I would like to say thank you for the travelogue. I live right across the bay from San Francisco, and I hardly.
So thank you. Hi, George. Thank you for coming. The city looks beautiful, and the weather last week was just gorgeous. God.
Yeah, the weather's we've been pretty good lately.
Yeah, that was right after the rains. I dropped my third one this morning, but I'm here for George.
Wait, you dropped 3 this morning?
I dropped the Presidio.
I did a
Presidio
one
this Presidio this morning. So thank you. Hi, George. Thank you for coming into the San Francisco, though.
Yeah, it's always a treat to get into the city from the Bay Area nowadays. It's worse than LA, man. It's worse than LA now.
You drove in or took public transportation?
I took a lift, but it took me it took an hour.
And you're not near a BART station.
You're near Emeryville, right? No, you're not.
He's
in. I used to work in Emeryville, but I'm just a little bit south of there. I'm 5 miles south of the Bay Bridge.
He's in Piedmont.
It's 10 miles from here to the city.
He's in the ritzy part of the.
I'm like 11 miles north of the Bay Bridge.
You're in San Pablo, right?
Right.
Yeah. I know exactly where you are. You're near Down Home.
Down Home's the closest record store to my home.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think I went to the Watts record store in Nevada once. I think. I'm not sure.
At 24 hours, you got to talk for parking for at least 15 minutes. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we got plenty of time to burn here. So after we get done with parking, then we'll move.
I have a feeling
your hair got longer since I saw you last week.
I have a feeling in the middle of the night, George is going to be talking about eye drops or some sort of shit like that.
Okay, so I got. Speaking of record stores, Mazzy, what's your take on that amiibo? What's your take on that
Well,
amiibo? There?
I always thought I like that amoeba. However, I think all the amoebas are not great used record stores. They have
Well,
some. They have a couple. They have the 6 bins of new stuff and stuff mixed in, but they're not a good used record store. They're great for new, like
LA's different. LA don't
well,
love
maybe I
different.
could be, but
different.
I haven't
It's
been
a
the
good
new
used
since they
store.
moved. But for instance, all the record store stuff, almost everything. I didn't see that woman singer who did the record store. Every record store day. This is what 2 weeks later had like multiple copies of the Grateful Dead boxes still on the walls in the new section of all the record store day stuff. They have, they'll have 25 copies or 30 copies of a new release. They have a lot of new stuff. It's great for CDs if you're into CDs. It's a good store, but it wouldn't be my first store to go to digging, like a big digging store for used stuff. Do you agree?
I don't like amoeba for used records at
Yeah.
all. But you never really know the shape they're going to be in, as well as some of the other stores. And to me, both the amoeba stores that I've been to, which is the Berkeley store, which is the original store, and the San Francisco store, they have too much stuff jammed in, and the aisles are too small, and it's just there's just too much there to enjoy the shopping experience.
Yeah.
That being said, they've got more stuff than a lot of stores
Well,
too. So
as someone who goes often because my work is
right,
near there,
right.
even the old LA store is better, but the new one is fine. And here's the reason I'm going to say the LA store is really good. The amount of collections, there's always a line of people selling records to the store.
Yeah, yeah.
So the amount of used records the LA location gets is huge. And every time, and I'm a person who goes, I don't care what record store you go into, the one you bash the most, there's always a record that's mispriced in there. And Amoeba takes in so much stuff they can't possibly do that. And here's a tip shopping at Amoeba. People don't know this tip. The more favorable used records, they seal up.
Right.
You can go to the customer service counter and ask them to open it to look at it.
Right.
So they will open.
That's kind of a hassle, but I see why they do that.
Well, if you're a serious record
if you're
buyer,
serious, you can do that. I have done that. Yeah, I have.
So, but I'll tell you that it's still, the LA location is still basically fairly priced. Even the wall records, for the most part, are on the lower end generally of what wall records sell.
But what's great about, I love going in San Francisco Amoeba because it reminds me of things that maybe I didn't see. All the new stuff, like new records, a lot of new records, like everything. I just enjoyed. I liked the books. I liked the vibe.
My complaint about the Berkeley store is the new stuff is hidden in the used racks. They don't put the new stuff out.
Well, they have everything facing out. I mean,
the Berkeley store seems to just, I don't go in there very often, and it always seems like they've only got the brand new, real young kid stuff, the college age.
I haven't been there
stuff.
in 15
Well,
years.
I'll tell you another trick. I don't know the other Amoebas. So here's another trick. Amoeba takes in so much crap, they'll put stuff under the bins, and you can look through there.
Right.
And that's stuff they're too lazy to put in the bins. In the LA location,
some of us are too lazy to bend over too.
Bend over. And also in each section, they have the just priced stuff in one area. And then in the LA location, they put just priced stuff in 3 different areas of the store. In the way back near the stage where they have people do shows and signings.
Well, the Berkeley store, they cut the size down by about a third when they put in the pot store next door. That they own.
How's the pot store?
Yeah, they own the pot store next door, which is a high-end pot store on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley. But when they cut that back, they just jammed everything into the rest of the store.
That probably pays for the record store, though.
What's that?
It probably pays for the record store.
I'm sure it pays the bills, but it squeezed everything up, and it's
A block up the street though, you got that Rasputin's. The Berkeley Rasputin's has that whole downstairs for records, which is
right,
I think
right.
great. I like that. You know,
Yeah, the
I haven't
downstairs
been
for
there in about
records.
15 years. So
Yeah, I haven't been there for a while because the Rasputin's.
yeah.
So I just heard
you've
too many
mentioned 1, 2,
bad
3,
things
4 Go
about how
records.
they
That's the
treat their
place where I
employees.
go most of the time
guys,
because
Yeah,
it's sort
I
of my
like
local. That's sort
look
of
at
my local.
Richie has a Steely Dan jacket on, a Asia jacket.
Are you ready for some football?
Yeah, I'm not gonna hang around long, man. This is an NFL Sunday right now, you know. God.
Yeah.
damn.
And I imagine that you're wait, why are you wearing a Texan shirt? I thought you were a Jets fan.
Yeah, I am. But Derek Carr was from Bakersfield.
Okay, so so you got his shirt. I see.
Do people actually dress up to watch TV?
Yes.
No,
Is that a thing?
no, I dress up to go on George Borden's
Oh,
live
okay.
stream.
That's okay. That's fair.
Thanks for dressing up.
Yeah.
I
I
appreciate it.
want to the old Amoeba store in LA. I thought it was a great store. The new one, I've only been once, and I didn't have a good experience. I didn't really know where anything was.
That's because
But
your
the-
first time.
Yeah, but the old one, it was a great store. It had a lot of CDs. It didn't have a giant vinyl section, but it was like in different areas, and I always found really good used stuff there. And one thing that they did is the used records would be sealed, and they would have a note on there, like grading them, and their grading was very accurate, and they actually didn't sell bad used vinyl there. They were always in really good condition.
I don't
And if
think
there
it's
was
graded
if there
now.
was an issue, it would say clearly on the note.
They do that. They write it with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
But the thing again is they allow you to open the used sealed records to look at them.
Yeah, but
If
I
you
never
go
felt
back-
felt the need to, because they were very good at grading the records.
You know, I
so-
understand they own the old Amoeba in LA owned their building and they friggin' sold it to a developer. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, but they
if you
made a
got-
shitload. They made a
They made a shitload of money and then opened. I think their new store is maybe 75% of the size as the old one.
Well, no, it's not that.
No.
It's probably
80%?
It's
No.
probably 85% of that.
Okay,
store.
well, it's
Nah, I don't think so.
but see,
The other one had
they
an
have a
upstairs
mezzanine.
even.
It had a tiny upstairs.
Yeah, there was a.
It was
that
pretty
where the
big.
old one.
That's
yeah.
where they sold a video. It was
Yeah,
a very
videos.
small space.
And
It
they
wasn't
had
that small.
black
It's as big
staircase
as
to
most
the
record
parking.
stores.
It was not that big,
Yeah.
but comparatively to what they to now, it's about 85% smaller. But it's not stopping
The old one was a
the amount of
shithole.
collections they're getting in there. So
People doing, people, syringing in the staircase to the parking lot. The old
No,
store.
no.
I saw Rob.
Hey,
there
can I
shooting
show what
up.
I listened to Saturday?
Yeah.
And I have to thank Mazzy for this.
Ooh.
I think that there's a lot of multiple songs, I think, redone, if I remember that correctly, on that
There's
Johnny
a
Cash.
few, but yeah, I listened to been into. I was surprised. This one here,
Is it
you
just
didn't-
me or is Richie going robot? Is anybody else hearing?
in Bakersfield, a lot of spaceships land off of frequently.
Okay, yeah, you went
Am I
robot.
going robot?
Not anymore.
Yeah.
You're back.
You're stuttering.
You're back.
Well, that's because my IQ isn't as high as
His
yours.
video stuttering. It's like a flip book.
Is that the Judas album? I believe that's the Judas album.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
And two other things I listened to recently is this one here. Let me take it out of the. You
tits.
might want to make this one big.
Really? Do I really want to?
Yeah,
Is it-
the tits.
Okay, the tits. Look at that.
And it's Great Punk Tits is the name of the album.
I
This
get it.
this was hard for me to get through, man. It's the vocals are so brutal on it. It's like, man. By halfway through side 2, I was like, man, I really don't want to hear this anymore.
Did you find out about it on the Tits user group on Reddit?
I don't even know what Reddit is. No, I heard about it it's a Japanese hardcore band, and I heard they were releasing all their singles because they're impossible to buy,
Oh, that's
and
the
they're putting
boot.
they put it on this comp.
That's the Dylan and Johnny Cash
Nothing, so-
boot.
Yeah, if you
Yeah,
down-
but I like to hold it, in my hand.
That's what she
That's-
said, right?
That's
Yeah.
what we've
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
That's what we've heard.
Well,
That's a song on the Tits album.
actually, I don't. These songs it's crazy. It's a crazy album.
Is it
None
from
of
a
you guys, I
period-
don't think would like
Is
it
it
at
a
all.
current band?
And
or-
you
The
can watch
pilot's holding his iPhone as he's flying.
No,
the
they
plane.
mount GoPros all around inside the cockpit, so you can see all these
Oh
different
my
angles.
god!
And then they
That's-
film like a whole flight from one location to another, so you can watch the process.
A
and the
lot of
process.
clouds.
Yeah, well, you're really paying attention to what's going on, what they're doing.
I'll have the
Oh,
fish.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
Sounds
So-
horrible.
It would, and that's why I watch it, so hoping it would put me to sleep. Or you watch somebody like repairing an amplifier for 4 hours. That'll get you.
Can I suggest next time you do a 24-hour stream, watch a few of Mazzy's videos. You'll go right to sleep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh,
That I just it just didn't work. It was I knew I needed to go to sleep, so I wasn't going to go to
I
sleep.
love that, Rob.
Especially the San Francisco ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah,
people
I-
like those, whatever. It breaks. You know what it is? It breaks up the the.
Monotony.
Yeah, I got a new record. Bye. It breaks it up once in a while. Do something a little different.
So I heard them
Yeah, but-
Jellyfish records ain't so hot.
They're horrible. This is from a couple years ago.
Yeah,
The
that's
7-inch
really
box, 7-inch box set. I haven't heard these, but Rob says they're very good.
Yeah.
Different company.
They're
Right,
probably
Rob?
digital as opposed to all analog.
Yeah, the all analog. They blew it. Somehow they fucking blew it.
What's wrong with them?
They're very. I mean, first of all, you got to crank up your sound.
Yeah,
to
which
listen.
is not a bad thing on its own. But
Mhm.
okay, there's a whole thing. The guy, I forgot the guy's name. There's a guy that posted something.
Is it Justin Fields? or
Justin something. He
Fields.
did the mastering for the high res and the digital online, and people are loving that. And he realized there was something wrong with the tape or something, and he told his people at Universal, "Hey, you really need to check this out." And they, in all their on the good side, they wanted to do all analog, I guess, technically, but they did a flat transfer, didn't adjust, do anything, and it sounds bad. It's muffled, it's bad, no dynamics, nothing. And he says, in that case, we all like the all analog when it works, but it's not always should be that. And he says they should have done that, and they ignored him. And whoever the other guy that did it for Universal, someone that was or is in house with Universal, I never heard of the guy that did it, and they're really bad.
Albums recorded.
in the early '90s.
So wasn't digital kind of in the
Yeah.
mix in the beginning?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
could have
but
been.
they were
recorded analog though.
They Albie Galuten, who was the producer on both albums,
These two.
did them analog.
Oh, okay. That was unusual for 90s.
Are you talking about Dead? Are you talking about Dead Grateful Dogs? Pele? The dude, I think he's talking about Mayhem. You guys watch. Actually, Disco Devil. I actually made a living recording a lot of sort of noise punk rock bands in the late '90s in the city here. So I wouldn't call myself an audiophile sound. I think all sound engineers are audiophiles to the extent that they're considerate of the sound, but it doesn't matter to me if the band wants to have a clean recording or if they want to create noise or do things that are it was new to me then when I started doing it, but after I kind of got the gist of what their gig was, it's all just a recording. So it's no difference to me whether it's clean acoustic guitars or crazy metal or noise rock. So I did a lot of those bands in the late 90s, and kind of that's what sort of how I made my living as an engineer for a long time in the city there, recording that kind of music. So I'm not
George, were you freelance or did you work for a studio?
Well, what had happened is that I was working at a place that was like sort of a school built into a studio, right, where they gave recording classes. But I was working as an operations manager for that school and an instructor there. And what I did was I had my own gear from my own studio, but I put a lot of it into one of the rooms there. So what would happen is that I could use that studio when it wasn't being booked for classes, right? So I was doing freelance work that way. But it was always my preference once I got into teaching, it was always my preference to kind of use that to be my main thing so I could work with the people that I wanted to work with instead of just who I had to work with. So I was doing both. I was freelance engineering, but then I was also doing instruction of that, of recording arts. So since about 96 or so.
Oh,
And then before that, it was just me and a guy had our own studio, and we were doing kind of freelance stuff. And you have your gear. We kind of set up a thing where we had like a full 24-track studio that we could break down, put into a truck, and go to a location and record a band in their place. So like doing like kind of one thing was like really interesting. There was a band there's a little town over here called Pittsburgh, and this band had rented out what used to be a newspaper plant, right, where they used to produce the local newspaper, and the building had been sort of just left, and so this band had moved in there, and it was sort of like their headquarters. And we were able to kind of set up a full studio in there and record in a place that was not meant to be recorded in. Doing a lot of stuff like that was fun, going to someone's house and setting up a full studio in their living room. Those, to be honest with you, as much time as I spent in recording studios, I don't really like being in recording studios because they're kind of clinical sometimes. I mean, obviously they're useful when you need to get a particular type of sound and you have a room that's, constructed to do so, but it's also kind of fun because you get whatever you get. And after reading about Led Zeppelin and the Stones doing those sort of like setting up in Keith Richards' basement recording Exile on Main Street, the goal was always like, that would be fun to do because there's no clock running. When you're in the studio, you have this tendency to always be aware of what time it is, even though you can't see daylight or nighttime. It's like the studio is like a casino, but you're always aware of time going by.
George, how would you ideally mic up a drum set? How many mics would you use, and like where would you mic them?
Well, the most common thing is to mic up every single piece individually, and then record the whole thing as a stereo unit in space.
I've heard also for the snare you'd put a top and bottom, and then also
sometimes
for bass. Yeah, not all the time, but and then bass sometimes you could use two mics too.
Yeah, for a kick drum, you put a mic.
It's like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I done this article for Drum Magazine.
Bass sometimes you could use two mics too.
Yeah, for a kick drum, you put a mic.
It's like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I done this article for Drum Magazine, and when they were in the studio watching what we were doing, I had mics on everything, and you put a mic inside the kick drum, you also put a mic outside the kick drum, and then you build what's called a doghouse around it, where you cover it with blankets and everything because that microphone needs to maintain separation. And then top and bottom on the snares, sometimes even top and bottom on each tom-tom, right? But that's getting out of control. And then overheads looking down at the drum kit, and then mics out in the room. And at the end of the day, the editor calls me and says, "Hey, we're gonna offer replacements for the mics you use because the mics that you use, it's like too expensive for our readership." So what we want to do is we want to kind of like in parentheses put some alternatives to the mics that you use. I said, well, there's not really any alternatives to those mics. So what I did was I went into the studio and I did what's called sort of a modified Glenn Johns, right? Everybody knows who Glenn Johns is now because of the Beatles documentary. But Glenn Johns, he was a renowned engineer back, from Olympic Studios back in the 60s. And so what he would do is kind of a 3 microphone technique, one over the top, one out in front, and one kind of over to the side. And they were all equidistant from a certain thing, usually the snare drum, and that would center. And then you'd pan this one all the way to the left and that one all the way to the right, and the one out front in the middle, and get a stereo spread with just 3 microphones. And then maybe augment it with 1 mic on the kick just to get, that's kind of the John Bonham technique, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I told the magazine, I said, look, I'm going to book another session, take another drummer in, and I'm going to record just that. And I'm going to do it with 3 SM57s. So, and those, you can buy those for $60 a piece at Guitar Center, once a year. So I'm sure your readership can afford that, so, and so I went back in and recorded a drummer with it was really 4, because I put one in the kick drum. And then I provided them with sound samples so they could have a link. And so as a sidebar in the article, they said, look, if you can't afford all of this, here's another alternative. And they put a sidebar up of us going in and recording with the 4 microphones. And to be honest with you, wasn't that big of a difference. It still, still sounded, decent enough. But to be honest with you, I feel that the fewer mics that you use, the better the sound is.
I've heard that. I've heard drummers. We were just talking with Anthony Wilson, the guitar player, yesterday, and he was saying that his drummer that he used on the session we were discussing, he basically tells everybody to remove mics, like they're always like over mic'd, and I guess he likes the effect of, I don't know, fewer mics on the kit. I think when I think of like highly produced records, like when I think of like in jazz, like CTI, like I bet that drum set was mic'd extremely well. And then they probably even had like some shielding around it. And that's why like CTI to me has like a totally slick feel. And it's because of, I feel like the drums play a huge role. Like the snare drums on those records, in a lot of them, they sound just like so perfect, which is very different than like other labels and other jazz artists.
Well, CTI is like the equivalent of a Steely Dan record, later Steely Dan record for jazz.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, it's a strange concept too, because if you think about it, when you put a microphone, 2 inches from a drum, it's very unnatural because nobody ever listens to a drum that way. No one, at least as far as I've ever seen, puts their ear right up to the drums and says, go ahead, whack the shit out of that. Yeah, right there. That's where we want the mic to be. You're not going to do that. The way that you're used to hearing a drum
Towns
kit
on the Smothers Brothers show.
You're standing 10 feet back and you're hearing the drum kit as a whole kind of bouncing around in the environment. And but we've gotten to a point where when you have that many tracks, you have that many inputs on the console, you have that many microphones, and you want to kind of control the blend of each individual thing. What it really requires, though, is it requires a drummer that really knows how to control those dynamics. And that's the other thing too, is that it's very, one of the things about, say, somebody like John Bonham was that he had a really good internal dynamic. He was mixing the drums while he was playing them.
Yeah.
If you were to stand in that room, that's where, and I think that's one of the things about the really good jazz records, the really good rock records, is that you're not focused on each individual drum. You're hearing the drum as a kit. That's one way of doing it. But on the other hand, man, sometimes when you're hearing each individual drum perfectly, that can also, different ways of doing it, but they're all valid. I think, it's good that we have those choices to listen to. I don't necessarily, I think the problem when you have too many mics is that you end up with a lot of phase problems. Meaning that, you have 7 drums or pieces of a drum kit that are all 3 feet apart from each other. And now you have 7 microphones or 10 microphones on all of those pieces. And there's no way that you can hit this drum and it doesn't get into all of these other microphones. It's not possible. So then what you do is you alter your technique and your placement to try to get the separation on those things. And you're always going to have these time arrival differences between the close mic and the mic that's 2 or 3 feet away. Blend all this together, it can be a problem. It ends up sounding thinner than if you used fewer mics. it's just those are, you know, that's in the weeds, but it's another way of looking at it. But you know, they're all good. It's all good. You know, and every one of us that is, you know, fancies ourselves as an engineer goes through that thing of trying everything. You know, I'm gonna pull out all the stops. Everything's gonna be perfect and big, and everything's gonna be accurate. And then what ends up happening is that everybody goes through that phase, and then what you end up trying to do is whittle it down to, you know, rule out, you know, what not to do, and just focus on the things that you know work, and use the fewest amount of techniques possible, and you get a thicker, clearer sound, hopefully, you know. Anyways, that's my answer, the easy, quick answer.
We
Now,
lost Richie.
yeah, he always says that he rage quits 5 times a show every time. So,
Or he
but
just backs out. He doesn't say goodbye.
yeah, he does that. That's the way he works. But so,
Do you
you
have a
know,
big
the
countdown
elements
clock in
of
your room?
performance in the recording process, but oftentimes it becomes so sort of clinical and broken down into small moments in time that the idea of performing it becomes a whole different ball game, so to speak. But that's, you know, that's just, again, it's another way of looking at it. But you know, I think that's all.
Like
It's all
if you
valid.
take the gig, you know, the Las Vegas gigs that you're gonna stay for 2 years, like performing every like 5 days a week,
A
is
residency.
kind of sellout. That's probably close to a sellout in a way, because you probably most people do it not because they love doing that, but they know that okay, if I do that, my children are secure.
Or, okay, that's fine. And then just to look at it from a different angle, from a performer's angle, it sucks to pack up and move every night and reset up the next day and be interfaced with a completely, you know, different set of circumstances. You have the same stage and the same gear, but you're in a different
Yeah.
venue. The idea of being able to keep your stuff sort of set up, as it were, and have the people come to the performance as opposed to the performance coming to people, that's
But then you have to live in Las Vegas also, George.
Yeah.
yeah, or have a really nice hotel room that's a couple floors above the
Yeah,
performance
but how
venue.
long? For how long is it gonna be nice to live?
But yeah, I mean, but again, it's I totally see the idea that um there's no, I don't know if there's a difference in the money making aspect of it. If you could tour, you know, 60 dates, I mean, I guess your overhead's going to be better or less when you aren't paying for trucks and movement and road crew and that kind of stuff. Yeah, but I think I don't know. I think selling out, it's I know. I just I just view it as there's decisions that people make, and sometimes but why shouldn't an artist make a decision about taking care of their children? You know, if they can, like, is it why is it
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it's bad. It
No,
seems
it's
like that
fine.
would be the right thing to do.
Well, yeah, but then you can also say, yeah, well, then he's thinking about his about himself. He's selfish. He's not thinking about the people who loves his music, but which makes no sense in my opinion. But it's still, yeah, it's just there's not like one way to sell out that is bad, and yeah.
I don't see too many people anymore playing live in the recording studio. It's a lot rarer than it used to be. It used to be pretty common. Well, yeah, it wasn't even commonplace back in the day. It was still rare. There were elements that you would play live, or pieces of the band playing live, and the goal trying to maybe get as much of it as possible. But there was a lot of not playing live.
Mhm.
As soon as we had multi-track, there wasn't really too much sense in trying to. It's very hard to have all, say, 4 or 5 people in the band have the best possible performance at the exact same time on the exact same take. You might have through the course of a day taking 7 takes of a song, and the keyboards were great on take 1, but the guitar was better on take 3, and the drums were best on take 5. It's yeah, not.
I can say that like I remember like when you when you're not an artist, or when you're not an artist, when you're just doing it for fun or whatever, it's very easy and normal to have purist perception of art and craft, etc. For the little while, I made a decent living as being an artist. Considering the kind of music I'm into, and I'm into all kinds of music, but like also the stuff that is not made for mainstream or global appeal, not intended at least, I could still think that way. But I realized as soon as you start to make money with your art, you realize that the most difficult part, maybe the most artistic aspect of being an artist, is actually managing to create an economy around your art, like a sustainable one, which results also in a very strange or in somewhat strange trope, which now whenever someone comes to me and tells me, oh, I'm a musician, the first question that pops into my mind is, are you making a living out of it? And if and I'm a bit judgmental in my head when I ask myself that, because often I expect that the answer will be either no or something that means no eventually, which will in my mind trigger a judgmental part that will say, okay, so you're not really an artist because uh, I was there at one point and I know what it is to be an artist, at least according to me, which is totally unfair, but that's where I am.
But you're saying are you a commercially viable artist, right?
Yeah, but you can be commercially viable so many different ways, so many honest ways, so many creative ways, so many deserving ways, so many less so. But still, like if you actually manage to convince yourself to sell out in the big bad way that we don't really know how to define,
right,
that would be also work in a way. That would mean work on yourself to accept to do that. Probably, maybe some people would find it very easy. I don't, so it's difficult for me to grasp the mental mindset, the mindset to sell out easily in that fashion. But really, like it, if you way that I know maybe the most artistic aspect of being an artist is actually managing to create an economy around your art, like a sustainable one, which results also in a very strange or in somewhat strange trope, which now whenever someone comes to me and tells me, oh, I'm a musician, the first question that pops into my mind is, are you making a living out of it? And I'm a bit judgmental in my head when I ask myself that, because often I expect that the answer will be either no or something that means no eventually, which will in my mind trigger a judgmental part that will say, okay, so you're not really an artist because uh, I was there at one point and I know what it is to be an artist, at least according to me, which is totally unfair, but that's where I am.
But you're saying are you a commercially viable artist, right?
Yeah, but you can be commercially viable, but
Yeah, that
bad and yeah,
I don't see too pieces.
very easy and trigger a judgmental part way that we don't.
It's very hard to make a living as an artist, especially these days. But it's always been hard. It's always the people that are making money off it aren't usually the artists. That's the problem. I mean, back to that John Waite thing I was talking about earlier. I didn't realize it, but the Babies, their first album sold like a couple million. By the time they got to the point where they had recorded it and toured it and it sold 2 million, they were still in debt and went to make their second record, which was another fronting of a huge amount of money, and it sold a couple million as well, and they still didn't make any money. Because of obviously the type of deal that they signed and all of that, and the publishing out the window and all that kind of stuff. It's that's another thing too, is that it's like a band that has a primary songwriter. The primary songwriter is, if they kept their publishing, is always in a better situation than the other members of the band, and that creates some issues in and of itself. It's a complex scenario anytime you put a bunch of people together and the workload isn't exactly spread evenly, you know.
That's kind of what happened with the band in a way, because Robbie
Yeah.
Robertson was aligned with Albert Grossman, and he got all the songwriters credit for what was, by everyone's definition, a collaborative effort by everyone in the band, which
Yeah.
was sad to me. I met Levon a couple of times, but it's kind of heartbreaking that the band toured completely after the last waltz without Robbie, but every time they played, Robbie got paid. So anyway,
Yeah, and they
Artists are we talking about?
the
The
band.
band.
Oh, the band, yeah.
Do you like music of the band, Stunny, or not?
I think I know I've never listened to it. Maybe I've heard it, probably in the
Proto.
radio.
I think
Probably heard a couple of tunes.
when you get to stage fright, it becomes even more lopsided. And then, but they also that's the thing, is that it happens in a lot of bands too. I mean, I remember like going back to like Queen at the beginning of Queen's career, it was individual songwriting credits for whoever wrote the songs, and then it gotten to a point where all of them, by let's just say Night at the Opera, Day at the Races, in that area right there, maybe even News of the World, where they all had number one songs as songwriters. And then what was happening was they were arguing a lot about whose song they were going to work on. Everybody wanted their song to be worked on. And then what they did later on in their career was they just made it all 25 25 25 25 amongst all four members. And then they just said all songs are written by Queen, and then it didn't really matter anymore whose song it was, and they would all sort of be involved more, and you saw that problem. They talk about that stuff with the other dreaded famous band that we talk about a lot on here, where the quiet one didn't get as many songs on records and had a backlog and made a triple album for his first solo album, which we won't say the name of the band, but if you can't figure
there's many. There's so many like that.
Yeah.
Like someone earlier in the chat was mentioning the Smith. The Smith had that in the most horrible fashion, since two of the members were not aware that they were being hustled by the two other guys of the band.
Well,
yeah.
To the band also, I mean, if you think about what the band was, they started in Woodstock, doing their thing with Bob Dylan, right? Bob Dylan had his motorcycle accident. They started recording all that stuff. And I think most of the Basement tapes is either predates or is contemporaneous with that first Big Pink and Brown album, right? So Dylan came in and bought Grossman. And so for whatever reason, Robbie was more aligned with Grossman and Dylan, and all this stuff probably happened with the songwriting, etc., before any of the rest of the band knew what was going on. So,
well, the band was Robbie Robertson's backup band for 8 years. And they got tired of Robbie making all the money.
Hawkins.
And
no, it wasn't Robbie Robertson. It was Ronnie Hawkins.
Ronnie Hawkins. I'm sorry. Yeah. Ronnie Hawkins backup band, which is Ronnie Hawkins, the guy that put them all together.
Right. The Hawks.
And they were his backup band for 8 years. They made a couple records with him. And then they went off on their own because they made a couple of singles that didn't do very well. And then they ended up connecting up with Dylan.
Right.
And they toured with him.
They became Levon and the Hawks after they left Ronnie.
Yeah, Levon and the Hawks for a while. And then when they did then when they actually toured, Levon quit because he couldn't stand the booing.
Right. But my point is that it was after Dylan's motorcycle accident.
Right.
Played up with the band. And that's when they started getting super creative and generating the music that we know, at least those first two albums in the Basement tapes.
Right. Right.
Is most of the, publishing, songwriting credits, whatever, was maybe fleshed out then in the back scenes when everybody else, Dylan included, was into making the music. And so by the time they started having some commercial success, the die was cast in terms of the songwriting credits. So that was all the point I was trying to make, is that I don't think the guys in the band necessarily knew what was going on with the publishing. Maybe didn't care, maybe didn't know, but certainly Grossman
Levon figured it out real. If
Yeah.
you read his autobiography.
Yeah, I've got it actually.
Yeah.
I think I got a good example of a big sellout. Marlon Manson. Marlon Manson is a big sellout since he's cashing on something that exists besides him, like an aesthetic, like a teen angst. And he's like a 55-year-old man who's doing stuff that he obviously doesn't take that seriously and is very good at it since he has a career with that for like 30 years. But in my opinion, what he does is a total sellout because there's no sense of progression in anything he does. He's just trying to stay relevant. And I think Rammstein is very close to the same, which, of course, they are very close musically as well.
Yeah, Craig, I would have to say that this is pure farcical. No. I don't believe that Bernard Purdie played on any Beatles records.
That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I think that this is just a total urban myth that Purdie started himself.
You and I had, George and I had this conversation because we both taught at art schools, which is a bittersweet thing. But the stuff I taught was the business side, copyright, production, estimating, production, that kind of stuff. And a lot of art schools do not require it. And granted, you're in a rock band, you're not going to art school. So that's a whole different thing. And I don't want to pick on Levon Helms of the world and that, but you think after the first record or two, when you see the money not coming in, the Byrds, after the first Byrds album, Gene Clark got the sports car because he wrote one hit song, where the other hits were a Dylan song. They got, nothing. So you think that you start writing songs, you figure out the publishing thing. Now, granted, a lot of musicians don't understand this, but, I taught these classes to, again, the visual artists, like photographers, things like that. And a lot of people, they're not cool to take those classes. They're not hip. But protecting the rights of your copyright, your publishing, is so important. And it falls off. Whenever I hear these stories, it's been going on since the 60s. The Beatles.
Oh, since the 50s.
Well, yeah. It's more so with a lot of the black groups and the soul groups. And I shouldn't say it, but like with the Beatles, they, Dick James took their publishing. They didn't own their publishing for a long time. And that's why the whole thing happened years later with McCartney starting. Sorry, I'm talking about him, but the whole he is, I don't know if he still is, the biggest independent publisher. And he buys up catalogs that are available, like Buddy Holly, Chorus Line, Grease, Annie, all that kind of stuff. And then Jackson bought, his catalog when it came up for sale, beating out McCartney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
of course, you don't feel for the Beatles. That's an rare exception. But
yeah,
a lot of young artists didn't have any of their publishing. Some got it back. A good example is what's the big British rock blues band that Zeppelin loves that never really sold? Pretty Things didn't get their catalog back till about a dozen years ago.
Excuse me 1 second here. Whoever My Life with Dave Grohl, a George Gordon Fragrance is, that's my son you're talking about. For real. Like, that's really my son on there. So chill out, dude.
Yeah.
Real? I mean, come on.
Like dump those guys, whatever. Anyway, it's really sad that, but I don't understand, like with the band and those kind of bands. I mean, after they made 7 albums or whatever, you think after at least the second album, you'd figure out you're not getting a bigger check.
Well, I think, I agree with you to an extent, Mazzy, and I'm not an apologist for anyone, but to their detriment, and Robbie talks about this. Most of the guys in the band, Levon included, were heavy into drugs, especially 69, 70, and that was why he kind of split off from them, because he couldn't handle heavy drug scene. But there's 2 books about it that everyone should read if you like the band: Wheels on Fire by Levon and
I
Testament.
read the Levon.
Yeah,
one.
and
Yeah.
who is inspiring to musicians instead
Yeah.
of to
Bjork.
fans.
Bjork.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Whatever you think of her. And again, I don't hate on Taylor Swift at all. I probably admire her business
I
ethics,
admire her, yeah, but I don't listen to her. But I admire.
because there's no reason for you, Jack, and for me, because
Yeah,
there's nothing inspiring in it. It's not because we're old. Uh, I mean, I listen to Cardi B because there are some stuff that is inspiring in it to me, because it's now music. Again, remember that Taylor Swift made a name for herself in the US by making like light pop version of country music. Like, come on. But I know that the thing is that America appreciates success more than anything else. That's the greatest barometer.
Yeah.
So it's easy to mix things up.
Wow. Yeah. Well, mix things up. But okay. All right. Mix things up, man. What do you mean by that phrase?
Well, to think that because she's uh, successful, like um, business-wise, that she's great. Like, how many times have we heard people equate like financial success in the charts with greatness? And sometimes we agree because we actually like that person, and sometimes we don't agree because we don't care for that person. So we are more objective, and we realize that this is not two concepts that should be connected.
I would say, well, yeah, but I would say this, and it's unfortunate, but being somebody who over the past 27 years has been sitting there with the youngest, newest talent coming out of high school, coming into colleges, and what they want to achieve as artists is pretty much that fame and money, more than not. And my experience would be this: in the course of a year teaching, I would see 1,000 people that whose goal was, after they got out of high school, was to pay lots and lots of money to come to a college that they thought was going to help them make their way in the entertainment industry. And oddly, even though we were more of a technical school teaching people how to work behind the scenes, most of them had designs on being an artist. And as time went on throughout the 2000s, the shift almost became 95% of them equated fame and popularity with success, not artistic anything. Most of the time it was, I need to learn to craft this music so as I can make money and eventually get a shoe deal, or and literally living in that bubble of thinking that if I get famous, everything will sort itself out. It was really hard to witness, and it was also really hard to teach those people, because I can almost say with all certainty that there's nothing really good about fame. There's nothing. Fame doesn't really bring you anything worthwhile in your life. Even if it's what you want, there's no upside to being famous. And it's hard to teach that idea, because especially in America, that illusion of success is based on, the picture that you take, or the video that you make, or what you look like in the video, or what your backstory is. And like literally watching people developing what they thought were interesting backstories to put on their website. Well, you don't make up your backstory to put on your website. It should actually be a biographical representation of you. Oh yeah, but nah, that's not what people want. People want, this and this, and they want that. And it's like literally trying to fabricate something in order to make themselves look more what they thought would be more appealing. And I don't mean just like wordsmithing to make it sound a little more enticing, but like literally just
Mm.
straight up, George Soros or Santos or whatever that guy's name is,
That's
just
all.
making up a complete past. And it's like, wow, but what's going to happen when they find it? Well, it won't matter, because by the time they find out, I'll already be, I'll already grab it and gone. Get in, get what I got to get out, move on to something else, get a shoe deal, get a thing going, make a clothesline, do this kind of thing, do that kind of thing. It was all just a vehicle, and it was frightening to say the least. At least it was frightening to me what it meant for the future of music.
That's goes along with my point. Like some say here that I'm out of touch. That there's right now a little girl in Nashville being inspired by Taylor Swift, or that Phoebe Bridges claimed that she was influenced by it. It doesn't negate my point in any way, in my opinion. It's like, of course, like no one needs Björk, Madonna, or Taylor Swift to be inspired to write songs in their bedroom in their parents' house when they're young. But that's not what we're talking about here. Uh, the fact that some do get the first role model in front of them being Taylor Swift, Madonna, or whomever, it's just a mechanical aspect that has nothing to do with the legacy of the work of like what is it in Taylor Swift's music that is inspiring. The fact that she's successful and that she has a good attitude, a good spirit, good ethics is inspiring. That I will agree, or could be inspiring at least. I will 100% agree. But I'm not concerned about that, because I can decide to live in a vacuum that is only concerned with music and music history, rather than the cultural aspect of music, which I can be interested in if I want to. But that's not what I was talking about. I don't think that
Yeah.
um,
But
any.
I would have to say right there, though, that just on that point before you go forward,
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
can't comment on the relevance of her music because it doesn't speak to me, nor do I feel that it was intended to. So I think that what I would have to do is I would have to go to somebody that's a fan of hers, that has her records and listens to her music, and ask them what they find. Well, we all kind of look at it as pop star, but I think most of the people that are in here aren't necessarily sitting there with Taylor Swift records in their collection, maybe one or two or something. But I think that you'd have to ask somebody who's actually a fan of hers, because I've seen some pretty rabid fans. They know all of the lyrics, they know all the songs, and they sing along to them. And even though we find them, potentially atonal or not, or lacking in melody, to the extent that Madonna's music has melody, they believe in it, and they're singing those songs, and they have those same, to them, those hooks are there for them. And but I don't
What
see
does that mean to them? Because either they are there or they're not. Like when you listen to "I Am the Walrus" or something, like it's. I mean, it's technically there. Whether you respond to it or not, that's a different thing. It's technically not in most of Taylor Swift's songs. I've listened to them. They're not structured the same way, which doesn't mean that there's only one way to do it, obviously. But
right.
we
Well,
also know.
I know good music when I hear it for me, but that
Mm.
doesn't necessarily mean that Stunty's going to agree, or
Right.
Jack's going to agree. Like I'm sure that I have a lot of records here that most people go, oh God, I hate that, or that's
Yeah,
boring.
but there's also stuff that both
I like
I
the
don't
wall.
like and that you don't like that we can totally acknowledge the qualities, the musical qualities, and maybe it's not for me because of my own journey
Well,
through music.
there's 171 people in here. Doesn't anybody in here have at least like 2 or 3 Taylor Swift records and like her music? Or here's the other question: wouldn't you be afraid to admit it in this forum after all of that's been said? That's another thing too, right? You know, it's like Kiss records, right? Kiss doesn't
I
write
so
strong
much
music.
wanted to mention Kiss, but
Yeah,
I'm glad you
Kiss,
do.
Kiss doesn't have strong hooks as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. But when I was 10 years old and I was listening to whatever song they were singing about fucking and partying or whatever it was, it seemed like, you know, it seemed like a
Because
cool
George,
thing to a
because
10-year-old.
when you were a little kid, they already had very, very strong marketing. So much so that you, as a kid, was totally falling for it.
But see, before I even see, no, but that's the thing, though, Stunty, is that you got to remember in 1977, there wasn't any, it was hard to find the marketing if you're a 10-year-old. I couldn't go out and buy magazines. I couldn't
No,
go
but
to a
just
poster
the look
show.
of them is marketing.
Well, that's the thing, is that I didn't see them
Okay,
before I
fair enough.
heard them. You know what I mean? I heard the song, and now I'll tell you this though: the people that were talking it up had seen him, right? So they did get sucked in with the. I didn't know what it looked like that when they were talking about. Oh, and the dude's got fire coming out of his mouth, and there's blood throwing up on the stage. I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't even know what that looks like. But they were singing. They were talking about songs that that were on these particular records. So it was like, you know, just having like a 45 of a song and hearing a song on the radio or something. But I mean, but like, again, I'm agreeing with you in this sense though, but I'm also saying that to this day, when they go on stage and well, they're not anymore, up to last week when they went on stage and played, there were, you know, 20 songs that were considered to be their hit tunes that everybody would sing along with, you know, that were probably pretty weak in terms of, you know, melodic content to the average, you know, music listener. But to those couple millions of people that went and saw them, those songs were established in their brains. And it's like that person said that went by, JD, or he said that his granddaughter has an emotional connection to the Taylor Swift, and I think that's why, like, it was right when Mazzy said, like, it takes
If you know, I'm sorry to make a bad joke, but if as a grandparent, you know, you understand the emotions of your, I would be a bit. No, sorry, GB, it's a joke.
catchy
But
pop.
You can make bad jokes because you know I
yeah,
certainly do, and you call me on mine, so you can make a bad joke. You can make a good joke too,
and
Stunty.
you understood where I was going, Mazzy, right?
Yeah, it's okay. I get it.
Yes, yeah, you know, we're gonna there's gonna be
I've
some
never
Kiss
owned a
bashing.
Kiss record, and I saw them once in '77 or '78. I loved them live, but I would never want a Kiss album myself. But I
Yeah, Kiss
loved
made a fucking amazing universal song. I don't know if they made it. It's the song that is the least representative of them.
yeah. No,
Was made for
get it.
loving you. It's a song like Taylor Swift doesn't have any song that is close to that. Nothing. It's
I believe
impossible.
Paul
I don't
Stanley
have
wrote
that.
that with Desmond Child, I think, is he had a ringer in there, a songwriter ringer in there helping him with that one. But yeah, I have 30 Kiss records at least.
And how many Melvins records do you have?
A Dazzle ship. One
One.
thing I will say, I mean, even though he's never been huge, Jonathan Richman has written a lot of songs with hooks and that are
Yeah,
very
yeah.
catchy. Road Runner. I mean, his
Jonathan
songs have been in
Richman
movies.
is a musician that has been inspiring for other musicians. There you
Absolutely.
go.
Absolutely. God, I can't believe that like Stunty and I are agreeing this entire evening. What the fuck is
Oh, it's
going on
trouble.
here?
It's trouble. Yeah.
A matched pair of new old stock Mullard 7025, which is, you know, that's a 12X7 or 5751. And I also sent him a pair of Telefunken, right? Were they Telefunkens, right, George?
Telefunkens
Or
and
Amberex. And Mullard.
yeah, Mullards and Telefunkens.
Okay, yeah.
I got a Gold Line new production ones too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I for power tubes, you know, the things that change the sound are the preamp tubes, and you know, and the power tubes don't make. I mean, they make a difference, but it's not as much as preamp. you know, and you know this. I mean, you've been doing this stuff for years. And, you know, I tell everyone, like, you know, if my iPad had tubes in it, maybe I'd figure out how, I know how it works.
But, Chris Snowden have made comments about a phone that would have had tubes in it.
Right? It'd be nice to have because I've built a couple of custom pedals for people, like guitar pedals that are overdrive, and there's one 12AX7 in the you know that provides the gain, and it's a very, very simple circuit. You know what started me on the whole tube journey was an old fuzz face guitar pedal, and I was playing with it, and you know, realizing how many different tones and sounds you can get just by lowering the volume on your guitar or the tone knob. And then I opened it up, and you know, you see that there's like a total of there's under 10 parts on this little PCB, on this little circuit board. And I mean, the fact that those 10 parts can provide that amount of gain is, I mean, and you know, you hear Hendrix and stuff, and that's the sound of a fuzz face. And the circuit is so simple, but it's so brilliant. And you know, all transistors. That's another. Do you like? I have a good stash of old germanium and you know, like some old stock like BC 108. You know, like do you play guitar at all, Seven?
Me, no. I've worked with musicians.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I mean, I take mine and I produce some and work with them. I can't really know the music. It's amazing. My daughter's learning guitar right now in France, and she's like,
nice.
2 lessons in, and she's improvising, making up her own songs.
That's what you got to do. You know what made learning other people's songs like that. That's what, you know, I never cared about becoming a, you know, like improvisation. I wanted to become a good rhythm player and know all the chords and the theory behind them and why they do this and that. And I mean, even to this day, I mean, I can fake improvising, but I know that it's not really coming from any place special. But you know, rhythm guitar it's not, you know, I just don't, I think people think it's the easy job, but it's really not. You know, you're constantly going. You ready? What are you doing, George?
Oh, look at George. That's beautiful. That's a great angle.
Okay, all I have to do, all 154 comments have been loaded in. All I got to do is push that button and pick a winner.
Oh. You want? Let's do a countdown. Jack, why don't you count it down, huh?
I got an idea. I'm just gonna push it.
All right, push it and then put it up on the screen. So
let's not make Jack work too hard.
No, Jack, you relax. You're flaming Bruce, right, Jack?
What that?
Oh. Who won?
Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Who's it?
J Hicks 9025.
Get out. Is Hicks here?
That's why I use direct drive like quartz lock, because you know that it's going at the right speed.
Yeah, I had a Techniques years ago. That was one of my first early tables.
I've also done like a lot of upgrades and modifications to it through that company KAB. Are you familiar with them?
No.
It's this dude, Kevin Barrett, I think his name is. I think that's what the KAB stands for. But he makes all these really good, you know, like you know, because the bearing is just on like a metal piece, and he made this thing out of Delrin that actually, you know, you can put a tiny little reservoir of the oil, and when you spin the platter, it spins as long as like a sapphire one does. It's really good.
That's the guy in the South Bay. The guy in the South Bay that's the guy Groove Tracer that makes those upgrades for the reverb.
Yeah.
That's what I have. I have the
Origin Live.
Because I got the upgrade of the sub platter for my RP6 way back from him.
Yeah,
and that's a great upgrade.
Yeah, and you get that. It's like a zirconium, like a ball bearing.
Ball bearing. Yeah.
You drop in there.
And then did you get the white belt? The white belt.
Really?
You know what?
No, I'm serious.
I did.
The white belt is an improvement over. It's. I mean, it's like fishy shit, right?
Anybody else out there got a
problem.
cheap? Anybody else out there got a cheap turntable?
Oh, a lot of
I got one of each.
I don't know.
I got a 1974 German Dual. That's what I use.
That's a nice turntable.
I have a
it's
86
classic
Dual CS 5000 downstairs. You know what? When people bitch about a price for a turntable, look at. I play music 8 hours a day. That's my main thing.
Yeah,
that's my main thing. So if I spent $3,000, whatever, or for a turntable, or maybe a little more,
it's worth it.
I mean, compared to all the shit I do, you know, what I use, I do that more than anything else. I play my turntable more than I drive my car.
Right? Yeah, mine's constantly on.
I have 40,000 miles on a 2017 car.
Oh wow!
Right.
Okay.
All right. So
when I've asked,
I've only got 12,000 miles.
Put a mid to high end cart on a good.
Anyway, George, good night.
Hey man,
Jack,
thank you, Jack,
so much, man.
Thank you for hanging out for a long time.
I'll come say good. I'll say good morning if I wake up.
Please do. Thanks, Jack.
Good to see you, Jack.
Thank you, man. Thank you for hanging out for
Thank
12
you
and a
so
half
much,
hours.
man.
With me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Talk
Good
to
night.
y'all later.
All right, later, man.
I think the idea here is that if you have a lower end turntable and you have a higher end cart, that this again is all just a bunch of theoretical crap.
Right.
But because you never know what the situation is, but the idea would be is that the more sensitive cart is going to pick up the sort of extraneous vibrations that the lesser turntable is going to throw into, you know, the mix, so to speak. Then again, you know, the idea would be is to get a more precise turntable. And I think with the turntable, the biggest problem after you get you know, there's only so much you can, you know, do with tone arm and with, you know, speed control and the spin of the, you know, wow and flutter and all that kind of stuff. But it's the vibration control and the dampening and how the turntable deals with the vibrations. And I, you know, I got a couple of or 3 of them because there's only 3 feet on the turntable, but I got these little spring-loaded isolators that go in between the turntable. And what it also does is it lifts the turntable up that much higher off the top of the amplifier, so I don't have to worry about the heat coming out of the amp going up in there, which is kind of negligible. There's a guy on YouTube that did all these tests with it, but the point is that what I could do is if I didn't have those,
YouTube. Don't listen to anybody on YouTube.
well, unless you
about
test what they
anything,
say.
about anything.
Yeah. So especially like right now. So
Exactly.
when I didn't have the here's how simple it is. When I didn't have the isolation feed on, what I did was I put the stylus down into a record and I wasn't spinning it. So there was no music playing. It was just the groove, you know, the stylus sitting in the groove. And that's, you know, it's live all the time. And then what I did was I just kind of pounded my hand like this on the shelf and I could hear it coming through the speakers easily. And then I put those little isolation feet in there, and then I did it again, and I couldn't hear a thing. And at that point, I proved to myself that whatever vibrations were coming up through the shelf that the record was sitting on were at least dissipated quite considerably.
Do you use
right?
any kind of other platform under your table at all, or anything?
I have 3 individual little spring-loaded isolation feet that the turntable
You don't use
balances on.
and you don't use one of the Riga wall units, you know, those things.
No, because it was such a drastic difference, you know, between I could not hear myself coming through the speakers when I was pounding on the shelf.
You got
And,
good
it was
ears. Then.
obvious.
You got good ears, then, George. I think all of that depends on, you know, how refined your hearing is. I'm not sure everybody can tell the difference between, you know, a super nice outfit and you know, just a regular good one, right?
Well,
Some
yeah,
of the
it's-
low, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say,
I'm gonna sign off. It was good hanging with
Hey,
everyone.
good
All
hanging
right,
with you,
thanks,
Chris.
man.
Maybe
All
I'll see
right,
you
good to have you
around,
on, man.
Have a good night.
Maybe I'll see you at the stores.
Yeah, and Bobby, I couldn't hear a difference in the music playback, but what I could hear a difference was when there was no music playing back, the sound of the
you know,
me
I
pounding,
understand. I
you know what I
understand
mean?
that.
And that
I never tried
so
that.
obvious.
I think I'll give that a try though, but I don't want to pound too hard. I break things.
Yeah,
It
you
also
never want, you
depends
never
on
want
if
to
you're-
pound
Well.
too hard. Okay.
Well, what if she asks for it? What if she
Don't-
asks for it? I don't know.
Come on now.
Oh, Vance. You
What
don't
did I
dare.
say? What did I say?
We're 12 and a half hours into a stream. If anybody's still watching right now, then good for them. They're gonna nail. Well,
How many do you,
George, my iPad is getting low on charge, even though it's
all
plugged
good.
in. I've had issues with it, so I may have to get off in a minute or two. So just to let you know.
iPads seem to be doing that these days.
Well,
iPads
mine's
and-
yeah.
I have 2 iPads going right now.
Yeah, well, yeah. So anyway, that's
Well, we were talking about this earlier too. That when on Wednesday when I met Mazzy over in the city and we went to Amoeba, man, I was sitting there. They had a fucking original bleach, Nirvana
Really?
bleach, $3,000,
yeah.
Yeah, that's what people.
$3,000,
Yeah.
and then just an everyday old first Geffen press of Nevermind, $1,500.
Yes. Yeah.
Dude,
$1,500.
That's where the collectability thing comes into play, because the Nevermind I have is the one that was done at Palace, and you know, so, you know, some people just want. Hey, Michael's here.
Guten
Come
Morgen.
up, dude. Come hang out.
Vinyl Piper, are you talking about Bleach? Was it like the white
Um,
vinyl with a poster in it? Was that Bleach? Is that what we were talking about? Or white label with poster? I don't know what we're talking about. White vinyl with poster. I don't know which one we're talking about, but $3,000, man. $3,000
Yeah,
for
yeah,
Bleach.
Yeah, man.
yeah.
I mean, that's just for a collector, you know. Like,
Sure. You know
Yeah.
what?
there's,
I only have that album on CD. I don't have the vinyl. I only have the CD.
I have
That's
it
all I
on
have.
vinyl, but it's,
You know, I only have the CD.
it's a reissue. I don't care.
I have a repress. Yeah, I have a repress on vinyl, and it sounds fine to me.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm not that kind of Nirvana nut where I
No,
need to
yeah.
have it. You know?
Yeah.
And then like Bernie Grumman has made some recent recuts of Nevermind that sound great, right? I mean, like
Yeah,
I
the
you know,
new one that they just did at Palace sounds awesome.
yeah, and it's like but I get it. I get when you have that completist thing. It's like if
Yeah.
I walked into a store and they had, say a first pressing of Please Please Me by the Beatles, I would be working out the damage in my head, like what do I
Okay,
got?
I'm not gonna eat on Wednesday and Friday. Those are my fasting.
Yeah.
Also, when I get home, I'm immediately going to put this guitar up on reverb or something like that. I would sort it out because I wouldn't be able to resist it. I have 8 copies of that record. I do not ever need another one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't. But it's like
yeah.
this
You
is
go
the-
through this whole psychological thing in your
Yeah.
head about buying these high end records, and you got to say, how much do I want to spend? I'm not going to go over $100, or I don't know. It just depends.
This is interesting what you guys say because
Do I buy that? Do I buy that one record or 10 other good records?
Yeah. I mean, I said earlier tonight that I've been collecting for there it is. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
For like over 30 years or so. But like what records are going for today, I would never ever be able to rebuy like my collection,
right?
And I'm sure
of
it's
course.
the same for you guys, like because and we should feel fortunate that we
look at that.
kept buying. I mean, I was buying CDs and records, I never
Right.
stopped.
Right.
What is that Les Beatles one? Is that the first album?
Yep, it is a French press, not very very fresh, very
I've
first
never
French press.
seen that
Yeah,
at
never. I've never
all.
seen that.
Yeah.
Never seen that.
Yeah, and they had their special logo. They even designed a Les Beatles.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's got the little antenna sticking up on the B.
And
Yeah.
that's
But
an
it-
official.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
it's official, but you
Yeah.
can tell it's a 65, 66 pressing because of the
Oh,
red
and look
Odeon
how
label.
clean it is.
Yeah,
On Odeon. Okay.
yeah. And one thing I can tell you guys how to recognize how to date a French pressing is because of BYEM.
Right.
Yeah. This is up until 71. From 71 onwards, they put a SACEM logo, SACEM. So you can
Right.
date your but this is a 60.
Was that affordable? Was it a good price or?
Yeah, the guy I knew that guy, so
Okay, all right.
I bought from him a bunch of jazz records,
Okay,
and he made
nice.
a very very good price.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah, like maybe 100 euro something. So
Okay,
yeah, not that bad.
Not bad. Not too bad.
No, not too bad.
Right.
But it's interesting what you say about price. I recently had a discussion with a guy here in Montreal. He's been running a CD store for years,
Yeah.
and he was telling me that in Montreal they were a store back in the days for bootlegs, and people who bought that stuff were not you and I were people like problem with the mind, like baseball card. They have to buy something. You have to. You have this OTC or what do you say? So
nice.
Well, hold on. Wait, watch this. Ready?
Here's-
Boom! Look at that. Where's that from?
what's written in the DR?
France?
No.
French?
Yeah,
Oh,
this is French.
probably.
Isn't it
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
French?
that is.
that's the privilege series. Yeah, yeah.
Here's some baseball cards. We got a Barry Bonds rookie
Yeah.
card.
Were you looking at baseball cards?
Yeah, I got. Here's another Barry Bonds. These are the 1987 tops.
You got a Barry Bonds?
Yeah, I got. Yeah, you want them?
I don't give a shit about baseball cards. But a Barry Bonds card. No, see, Nick, here's the silver RSO.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
that's the black
Okay,
C, and
yeah.
it's the same thing, but it's just got a silver background.
It looks like it's a deep groove with that.
It does. It has that, like it has a good notch right there. But it's the
Damn,
same thing,
I
basically.
want that
just silver.
one. Let's trade.
I'll trade you.
Oh, look at that!
You recognize
Oh,
this
man.
guitar?
Yeah, Van Halen.
Yeah,
I got
Van
this at Guitar Center.
that's cool.
Yeah. And you know what?
George has
one
like
at
an
Guitar Center,
exact
too.
replica. Let's see how exact that is to the replica.
It looks pretty similar.
Yep.
Yeah, this was just a little bigger.
Oh
though.
yeah, they
That is
did
nice.
it pretty good.
I like
Now,
that,
what
George.
what his has that's more authentic that this one doesn't is the 1971 quarter right there. There's a little quarter
Yeah. There's a
that he used to put on a little swivel so he could put it underneath the trim so it wouldn't go back any further.
What
But,
part?
yeah.
Can I see that again? Show me.
Right here on yours, you have a little coin stuck right there. You see, I see the little silver circle right there. Right.
Yeah.
It's like a 1971 quarter, I believe.
Okay.
That he had mounted there that he could slide underneath the bridge so it wouldn't go back any further. To keep
Okay.
keep it in.
So, okay, we moved from well, wait till George gets back so he can hear the story. Okay, we moved to Pasadena in 1973. Okay, 1973.
Yeah.
I was 15
Hey,
years old.
Charlie. Sorry.
And so Eddie the Van Halen brothers were here in Pasadena, and they were just a local band. So I got to see them at a backyard party at least once, and they played at the Pasadena Convention Center before their first album came out. So it was cool to see them here in Pasadena before they broke, And I would see David Lee Roth walking around a PCC, Pasadena City College, because he thought he was all that, right? And it was cool though. When the first album came out, I was really thrilled because I thought, I never thought they would put out such a great album, and it was a thrill. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun, But I really wish I would have taken a camera back then and got a picture of them back in the day, But who knew, right? Who knew?
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
You just go there to party and drink beer, and listen to rock and roll. You don't, you're not thinking, hey, they're the next big thing. But yeah, that was fun back then.
This right here, yeah, look at that. A sealed Nimbus supercut of Sgt. Pepper for $7,000.
Wow.
What?
Yep.
Whoa.
Get out of here.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the one you had to
Oh,
sealed Nimbus
isn't
supercut.
this the dude that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think arguably would be considered to be the second best pressing of
stereo.
And
of Stereo Pepper.
Yeah.
Right.
What is the
Behind
best? I mean, the dash. I have a -1.
No. And I'd say if that one's sealed, that's gonna fetch
Oh
more,
my
but
God.
possibly. But there's an Australian one that they put out for like it was only
for a magazine.
Yeah, and there was only a certain amount, like 400 or 200 or something really small
very
number.
low.
And that's supposed to be that one's I don't even know if it's that it sounds it was 100 presses, 100 of them made.
That is that Nimbus. It's like early 80s. You had to subscribe to that magazine so you could receive a copy of. Yeah.
Right, and the Nimbus ones it was in the UK, right? They're like I think they specialize in classical pressings.
Yeah.
And they pressed it, but then now in Australia it was another kind of a hi-fi thing where I think it might have been like a show. And they pressed them for a particular show or something like that. And there was such a small number of them. I don't even know I don't even know if it's necessarily, it might be 200. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the EMI audio file, it even says it on there. So I don't even know if it's that it sounds better or that it's just rarer and harder to find, and that's the most sought after one. I don't know if anybody's ever done like a Nimbus Australian audiophile one. It even says audiophile on the cover. I think
That's like the Pixies. That's so weird that they put a sticker that says audiophile vinyl on a Pixies record. I mean,
yeah, I've never seen that before. That's very strange.
I sent that to Patrick, and he ripped it, and I mean it's absolutely pristine, and I don't even remember where I got it, but I'm glad to have it.
Let me get some water.
What are you drinking?
Just water. I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I'm drinking Gatorade. I think if I drink any more caffeine, my heart will explode.
It's not good to drink too much coffee.
No. Right. No, I don't want to. You start getting that kind of nervous, shaky, gross feeling. I hate that.
Where are you from? Where are you located, Nick?
I'm in Massachusetts.
Oh.
So when you were saying that you're right up in Burlington, I have a friend that lives right in Burlington, and I actually he was looking for a clean Tech 100. Oh, what happened? How'd we switch? That's weird. And so he had me. I was looking, and I finally found. But it was a pair of them that was in a studio, and he came down. I had to buy both of them. I just sold one of them, gave him the other one. But yeah, but you're right.
On the south shore of Montreal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and when did you move to Canada from France?
Last year, March 2022. Yeah.
Do you like it there?
Yeah. It's a bit different, of course, from Europe.
Yeah.
But it's a French-speaking part. A lot of people speak French.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of people move from the place where I come from in Montreal, so we still gather. We still can find our, culture, food, and stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I've been to Paris like 2 or 3 times, and here's a weird and funny story. We went to like the Louvre during the day, and check stuff out, but there was so many goddamn people, so we went back at like 2 a.m. to like right where the Eiffel Tower is.
Come on, man.
What? Oh,
what does that even mean? Quebec sucks.
So we went to the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
No one. It was just like us and like a few other random people. And you know what? Have you ever stood right directly under the Eiffel Tower and looked straight up?
Yes.
And it throws your balance off. You like can't look at it. It's weird. So anyway, so I was with our band and our tour manager / driver at the time, and there were a bunch of drunk idiots, in a little pack, and one of them took a piss under the Eiffel Tower. Now they took it very seriously because people in like the military, like French military, like people showed up with like like real like guns, like AKs, like automatic weapons, and went like, you do not piss under the Eiffel Tower. And apparently they were always watching. And that was just kind of a scary experience because we didn't even see these people. We turned around and there's 3 people with these huge guns, in these military outfits.
Yeah, they took it seriously after the shooting in Bataclan in 2000.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Man, I just watched a movie about that, like a pretty in-depth documentary about just that. That was bad news, man. That was so difficult to watch. That whole scene, that concert venue is like the Eagles of Death Metal were playing during that.
Yeah, that's so awful.
It was like just these people telling the story, and it was so. Man, it made me feel like I felt ill, when
Yeah.
I was watching it. It was horrible. And I was about to make a joke about if is pissing under the Eiffel Tower as seriously as they took it as when Ozzy pissed on the Alamo.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. It was
Ozzy.
you just
Ozzy went to jail for that, I think.
Yeah.
They took him right away. I don't know if you heard that story, but Ozzy took a
Oh
leak.
yeah, I've heard it. And he was wearing dress.
Really?
Yeah, he was wearing his wife's dress, and
yeah, because she took all his clothes.
Oh yeah.
He was in such a drug frenzy that she took away his clothes, thinking that now he can't go anywhere, and so he stole a dress and ran out and got arrested for peeing. Yeah, he didn't have any idea. I think very rarely did Ozzy know where he was at any given time.
Have you ever been to the Alamo?
Yeah,
I have not been to the Alamo.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not as big as you'd think it is. It's actually pretty small. And when you're walking through, and then they have, that big area. It's like almost like a diorama type thing with the plexiglass on it, and it shows how it was back. Charlie. But the Alamo wasn't as, it was just, you hear all this stuff and it's like this big thing in your head. You get there and it's like, it's not what you think. But, what was the total opposite of that is, I don't care how many pictures of like the Great Wall of China I've seen or looked at or seen in movies. When you see that thing with your own eyes and see how huge and long it goes, and the steps people have walked up and down these stone steps so much that they're like worn out. It's like almost a slide, and to see that, certain things like that with your own eyes it's just nuts. It's nuts how big that thing is, and that they, I can't believe like humans built that.
I wouldn't know the answer to that.
It's got to be millions.
A shitload.
Yeah.
A shitload of bricks. What do you Music Sanctuary? Are you from Canada? Is that what's going on with you? You got a problem with?
Yeah, he's pretty angry.
What's
He's pretty angry.
on?
Yeah.
Music Sanctuary's over there, and
that's Tim.
And Jeff K. Myers, I think, seems to have a problem too.
He's bringing out his. What are people arguing? What's the problem?
Yeah, they are. They are. I'm not technically a citizen, so I'm just foreign worker, so I don't say anything. But I can see a problem between the French-speaking people and the English. Yeah, it's like in Belgium, or it's like in Switzerland where I used to work. It's funny, countries that they have like several language region should be something very nice, but it's a problem. Switzerland's German-speaking part against the French-speaking people. In Belgium, it's the same. It's silly.
I don't understand, like what the thought process behind that is. I don't know. It's just so
no, I wouldn't say anything. It's a music show. Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Sticker Mania had the Nimbus in his possession, sealed, and didn't even get to listen to it.
Oh, it's because it was sealed.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be able to resist it.
I
don't know. I don't know if I was holding it, and I mean, I know that what comes into your head is that this is worth so much money sealed.
Yeah.
And the second, like, even if you don't play it, even if you just opened it and let the air in there, you just probably shaved $1,000 off of it.
Yeah,
you know?
at least, if not two.
Right? I mean, I guess you could still call it mint, because you never played it. But I mean, I just don't know if I would be. I think I would have to listen to it. But I know that as good as it may or may not be, could it be that much better than, say, like a -1-1? When I went in to check this stream to see how many thumbs up we had, it came up on my suggested to watch, and I saw it. It was like it was a short, I think. Was it, or was it just a brand new video? Because it came up on my
so
suggested thing. So I just saw this fortune cookies, and so I touched it real quick, and I could see him going in and pulling out a fortune cookie and breaking it open. So he really did the names of the contestants in there. That's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. Yeah, I know. I know. Oh, look at this. You're still going, huh?
Nick.
Still going.
Yeah, he was.
Man.
Nick was the one who wouldn't allow you to talk about your Pixies records, Nick. He was out of control, Nick.
Was he the one that put a ban on my Pixies stuff?
No, but like you were to watch showing them, and he was like showing all his lubes and all stuff like that.
We could try.
Hey, I forgot. Yeah,
try some.
I got Mark's thingy.
Oh, there you go, Project Gemini, man. Yeah,
Hey.
Mark was on here earlier.
Yeah,
I saw him. I've been with you since 1 o'clock, or well,
I know, I've seen you in there. I've seen you in there. I'm really kind of saying that just to myself, trying to remember all the people. I wasn't trying to tell you. I was trying to tell myself, because I don't even know. I to be honest with you, I'm having trouble remembering the difference between the stream that we're on right now and the last 2 streams that we did in the last 3 weeks, because it's all. It's hard to think that we started this at 10 o'clock in the morning. It's now 1 o'clock in the morning. So we've already gone around the horn, and we're back into the AM territory. Right. So we've completed the entire PM portion of this stream. Right.
So the 15 hours in, George, what was the what was the most outrageous thing that happened? The most outrageous comment, or
I think that the most outrageous thing was when Novice Nick pulled out 4 types of lube that he just happened to have on hand.
Just happened to be there. What the
and
fuck?
He's sitting in his listening room. You can see the stereo behind him, so he's not like in the boudoir.
No.
He's like in his man cave, and he just goes, this type of lube, this type. Had 4 different types, and capped it off with Astroglide.
I thought,
and then Chance put the Astroglide banner.
I disagree. I thought the most outrageous part. Was you feeding your dog turgid call or whatever. I thought that was because you kept looking at your fingers, and then you kept putting it to your dog's mouth.
Well, no, what it is, and it's not really even turgitol. It's that groove washer thing, but it gets on the outside, and so what happens is that after you touch it, even touching the outside of the bottle, and you put it down, your fingers are like totally slippery. Like you can feel that.
I'm talking about the pine tree that is the
Yeah, they grow them up in northern
California. They're like huge, but we couldn't go through because we had a
Hummer,
15-passenger van with a giant trailer on the back of it.
On tour.
Yeah, Nick, gaze into Richie's lights. That will keep you awake.
Yeah, I wanted to know. Can you explain the difference between a remix and a remaster?
No, he can't.
Get the fuck
And he
out of
won't.
here.
He could, but he won't.
I can't do that right now. I don't even know.
A remix is Rachel, and a remaster is Macamania.
Do these people know who Macamania is?
It worked out pretty good. Rick's v Spinner. We stayed up pretty high. I don't think we ever got down below 90, so it was fun. Even
this has been a great night.
Actually, that's very good. It didn't get below 90.
No, and but it felt like we were like it was really dropping off because it was like we were like in the middle of the night there. Like it was like we were in
Oh
the
yeah, that
we were
was
out in the
rough
middle of
there
like the
for a little
Alaskan
bit.
tundra out there, and we didn't even know what we were fucking
Right.
talking about. And I looked up and I saw it go 100 and it goes right down to like 99, and I went, oh no, it's over, it's over. But
Time to bring out the strippers.
Yeah, the European contingent came
Saved
in
you?
and helped us.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's good.
Everyone came by and said hello.
Yeah,
It's been a fun
I remember
time.
Mazzy said that probably would happen. That's good to hear. Because
Yeah,
sometimes
oh,
you can't.
you know what, Richie?
Sometimes
I
you can't count on those Europeans. Sometimes.
No, but they came in. Oh, hey, look! Speaking, look at this. A man from Europe right now.
There he is.
Crunch time.
Is it crunch time?
It is crunch time. We are inside
I
the
thought you said
4-hour mark.
brunch.
The finish line is in sight.
Light
And-
at the end of the tunnel. Oh, what is Richie up to now? Is he
He's
Santa
got his
Claus?
Christmas tree going. It's pretty impressive. It's just a flashing beacon of hope.
That's so David Lynch.
Yeah.
Richie, did you grab one of those SSD records?
I ordered the second. I got one on the second press.
Yeah, I missed the first one. I guess they did
Yeah.
1,000 for the first one and 1,500 for the second, which is gray. I mean, I don't care what color it is.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
I'm just glad that they finally did that. Like, why
Yeah.
didn't they repress that record? Like, it's been like 40 years or something. Like,
Yeah,
that was an epic record, especially in Boston. Where they're from.
Yeah, yeah. I
And-
guess the guitar player, he just got tired of music, and he it's a pretty interesting story if you read it. I guess the guy has cancer right now, so it's kind of
with the singer.
No, the guitar player. I think the guitar player is the one that wrote all the songs. I think he wrote the lyrics and the music.
You guys are saying SSD and not SST. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Yeah.
SSD
Control.
Control.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Boston hardcore.
Yeah,
band.
it's an album that needed to be reissued. I
Yeah.
knew it was going to be reissued last year, and as soon as they issued it, I didn't find out till like a week later, and it sold out the day it was issued.
Oh
I guess.
yeah, they were gone immediately.
It's a record that sells in the thousands. In fact, I remember Discogs had just the album cover.
For
$599 for sale. It's like, come on.
Are you kidding me?
Did you order it, Richie?
Yeah, I ordered.
Yeah.
I got the second press.
Okay.
Yeah, we got
I
a
got the
question here for Richie. Is your cat chewing on the wires on your tree?
I don't have cats.
Okay.
And cut up the bits. There is so much knowledge on segments.
Was there any knowledge? I can't remember any knowledge.
There was. All
right.
Yes. Good people.
And
Interesting
also-
little.
Go ahead.
Just for me, this has been one of the most epic and amazing long streams.
And also,
You need to get out more, Stefan.
We're
I was out today. Hello, I'm back.
Hey,
I went.
we're 6 thumbs up from 250 too, folks. If there's anybody in there, we're sitting at 244 likes, man. 6 more likes on this bad boy, and we're rocking 250.
I'm seeing 245. So
Can we get
5.
some fake electors
Yeah.
in here to like it, please? Fake electors, anyone?
Pardon me?
Click a thumb up and
Just ask
244.
for
No, I'm not getting paid.
I think
I'm
I
gonna like it.
think I
Can I
already
like it
did.
twice?
246.
Yeah, no one's getting paid.
Yeah, so I was just going to say I'm on nobody's payroll here.
That's
Already did.
excellent.
I do
Because
it for the passion and the love
the
Well, I got
airwaves
3
are free, my friend.
I got
and the
3 more
people.
hours.
Yes.
And also, thank you, everybody, too, because we started today at like 142 on the sub count, and we're already up to 1166. So we
Nice.
gained a good 24 subs. So that's a
Cool.
that's a nice thing. And so we do want to make sure that we thank you to everybody for keeping us awake, and then everybody that came on the show for keeping us awake. I mean, I'm sitting here acting like we're almost like in the last 10
Yeah,
minutes.
you're doing you're doing that speech too early.
They'll
Just-
start
just
thanking people.
You could just
cut
put
it
on
off,
the new,
save
you
the
could
rest
put on
of
the new
it.
Scorsese film now, and it'll end by the time the 24-hour mark. is.
Yeah,
George,
yeah,
I
yeah,
tried to
just-
join before you shut down. For now, I have to go a little bit. See you later, I hope.
Yeah,
And it-
please,
and
Michael,
it's
come back.
close.
You
Come
got
back so we
3
you
hours
can
to
yes.
take
end it
care of
with
business, and
us.
we'll still be
I
here
try
if
my
we're
best.
still, you
Yeah.
know,
All right.
if we're
Good
See
seeing
you
you,
later.
Michael.
keep your shelf
I've got some
standing up.
interesting. I've got an interesting thing to share if anybody wants to know. So we moved an EMT turntable out of South Africa that was part of
Oh, those are
broadcasting.
beautiful.
Oh,
The
yeah.
EMTs.
Well, that's
I mean, they're
so
more like studio, like like I
There was also a test pressing of Led Zeppelin 1. I think it was only $8,000. Had my finger.
yeah, it was that was in
You ever see
2011 Warped Tour.
you ever see that video Breakfast with Blassie?
No.
Oh, with
what's
Freddie
that?
Blassie, the
What is
wrestling
that?
manager?
Yeah, Andy Kaufman. He meets Freddie Blassie at some coffee shop, and they film it. It's pretty funny.
I think there's a couple funny of show that Seinfeld, like coffee with
Coffee and
cars
cars with
and
comedians.
people,
Yeah.
when he talks to those people. Some of them are pretty good, but then some of them are like, why you probably should have just canned that one. But the one he had with I think Sarah Silverman is fucking hysterical.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She's so awesome, and
I agree.
she's so funny. Her comedic timing, she's just so on point. I love her.
Did you watch the HBO Max special?
No, I don't have that.
God, it's
yeah,
so you can't even believe the shit she says sometimes.
it really is crazy. It's so over the line.
It's
yeah.
that line.
I was with my friend.
Yeah.
We were like scissoring last night, you know.
Yeah, I love her so much.
She's
so
pretty
awesome.
funny. What?
No.
Like, yeah.
Where is
And
my
people just get so embarrassed. Like, what? What's
Yeah, it's not.
And she's got that
I
little
think you're
cutie,
the one
like-
that gets embarrassed all the time, man.
Yeah, she's just a cutie little thing. She knows what she's doing. It's funny.
Hey, you'll be happy to that we almost bought a first pressing Please Please Me for $26,538.72 on Discog. This morning.
Are you serious?
This close.
Yeah.
There's one for
Close.
$26,000.
Only $26,000.
Yeah, it was. It's near mint. My finger was right on the button, and then there was a VG version right below it for $7,362.
Is it mono?
There's
mono?
no
It's a big
fucking
difference with
way
stereo.
that thing is mint.
Stereo, and it's funny because it's stereo original UK, right?
Yeah.
And it won't even sound as good as Die Beatles, D Beatles.
Yeah.
But the stereo ones are even more rare. I think the stereo ones are more
At
rare.
that point, yeah, 63. Yeah.
Not gold label. But we were, for some reason, somebody decided that we should go on Discogs. I think at the time there was 4 of us.
Oh yeah,
And,
it was Dom. He
and someone
said-
suggested that we get on Discogs and buy a random record. I think Stunty actually did buy one. Oh, but did you ever hear from Stunty, by the way, Nick?
Yeah, what happened to Stunty?
No, I haven't heard back from him.
Stunty had another
disaster.
Thoughts and prayers to Stunty and his shelves that have likely claimed the lives of.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Kim-
like 2 shelves. Like his shelves are trying to murder him. Like
I think he killed his cat.
oh my god, that would be so awful, but it's so funny.
Norman, you have some answering to do. When is the
I
year-end
just
list
wrote
going to be
answer.
ready?
I didn't want to bother you. I said I've done 2 already. There's one a week. There's a best of the box sets, best of reissues. There'll be a jazz. There'll be a best records. At the very end, there'll be the wankers of the year. You know.
Yeah.
Wankers of the year.
Hey, you can incorporate the jazz and the wanker one and make them just into one video.
Oh God. Now, now the wanker are musicians only, unless I can thread it to connect someone who's not a musician to it. And I'd never use people in the VC, people we know. I just don't get personal. I never do that. So
maybe you should.
No, I've never done that, you know. So I know you're kidding, but I don't do that.
No,
I mean,
I would be
there's
honored.
basic.
I would
There's,
be
I mean, if
honored
I
to
did
see.
that, there'd be at least probably 2 in the peanut gallery that I would do, but I'm not doing
Oh,
that.
yeah, of course. There's some I things would be you just honored to keep be your a mouth number one shut wanker. about.
No, you're not a wank. You know, you want to be a wanker, but you're not really a wanker. You know,
I'm a ranker.
you're,
I
you
make
are a
ranking
wanker.
videos.
You are a wanker.
When whatever.
What is wrong with you? Oh God, go away! It's so gross. Stop it.